The Pentagon has been caught lying about UFOs. This is Inverted World Live. Hello, and welcome back to Inverted World Live, week 2 with the new schedule. Thank you guys for joining us. I'm your host, Shane Cashman. As you can see at the bottom of the screen, it's saying we got a link for you to click if you want to call in. This is a call-in show. If you have a strange story, if you've encountered something bizarre, near-death experience, demons, ghosts, UFOs, military abductions, you name it, you call in, we can talk about it. Or if you've heard something that me or Brandon has said throughout the show, or another caller, call in and you have an idea about that, we'd like to hear it. Brandon, how are you?
Chilling, man. Chilling. What's up, everybody? Let's get weird.
In terms of getting weird, Brandon, did you just see something in the sky?
Craziest thing. So we're standing outside smoking probably like 20 minutes ago. And I'm out there with our security guard, Dom. And we see what is basically like a blue flash of light kind of stream across part of the sky off into like this lightning storm kind of horizon that's happening on the edge of West Virginia. And it looked like something skipping off of the atmosphere, but it burned a couple of different colors. It was like green and then kind of back into a blue, and then it faded. Neither one of us could really identify what it was, but I was like, we're talking about UFOs tonight. Let's go.
They knew. What colors was it?
It was weird because like initially when I seen it, it was like a green. And then when it kind of crashed off into the horizon, it was a little bit more blue. And then there was a crazy lightning strike behind it. We thought it like something crashed at first.
Really?
But
did you hear anything? Other
no,
than lightning? Like
no,
what?
Didn't even hear anything coming from like the storm itself.
Weird.
So yeah,
maybe it wasn't a storm. Maybe
super creepy.
The storm was just an illusion.
Well, the funny thing was I didn't notice that there was lightning even happening in that area until right after it went to that side, which is why we kind of like looked at each other like, what the hell was that?
And how fast was it moving?
It was pretty quick. Initially, it started in slow, which is why I think it was something that entered the atmosphere. It started in kind of slow and then just quickly kind of just burned through. So
comet? You think it was a comet? Like,
I mean, we're supposed to be getting hit by debris at some point
what?
here from something, some kind of asteroid belt or a meteor shower or something. I think is usually happens or is supposed to happen around this time. So it might be something from that.
Right.
But I have to do a little homework on that and get back to it because I'm not 100% sure what the hell that was.
We should go look for the crash site.
Yeah.
We can just bring the show on the road. Search the dark
I'm already going to be like actively watching to see if anything crashed during the broadcast. So
yeah, whose yard it landed in.
Yeah.
And all this good stuff. So it could be extraterrestrials, demons. It could be also military. What we're going to get into really quick before we get to some callers, which again, if you are just now tuning in, this is a call-in show. If you have a strange story you want to tell us, we have a link to call in. It's audio only, and it's pinned to the top of the chat on both Rumble and YouTube, and we'll have you on. But there's this report that came out just recently, broke by the Wall Street Journal, so take it with a grain of salt. But it's interesting because it's saying that the Pentagon has been caught lying about certain UFO experiences to cover up for secret military tech. You want to pull up that article? Those articles. We'll see what we can get into with this. It's always been my suspicion that a lot of the stuff we see in the sky that we can't explain is part of some secret military joyride with technology we just don't know about yet. But I don't want to say that it's all that, because I do know other things are happening out there. So is this the article? This is the Wall Street Journal article where we can only listen to it?
Yeah, this is the audio one that we have.
So let's listen to it. What is it, some AI voice or something?
More than likely, yeah.
So the headline is "The Pentagon Disinformation That Fueled America's UFO Mythology." And the subhead is U.S. military fabricated evidence of alien technology and allowed rumors to fester to cover up real secret weapons programs. Let's listen to this AI lady.
Story time.
A tiny Pentagon office had spent months investigating conspiracy theories about secret Washington UFO programs when it uncovered a shocking truth. At least one of those theories had been fueled by the Pentagon itself. The congressionally ordered probe took investigators back to the 1980s, when an Air Force colonel visited a bar near Area 51, a top-secret site in the Nevada desert. He gave the owner photos of what might be flying saucers. The photos went up on the walls, and into the local lore went the idea that the U.S. military was secretly testing recovered alien technology. But the colonel was on a mission of disinformation. The photos were doctored. The now-retired officer confessed to the Pentagon investigators in 2023. The whole exercise was a ruse to protect what was really going on at Area 51. The Air Force was using the site to develop top-secret stealth fighters, viewed as a critical edge against the Soviet Union. Military leaders were worried that the programs might get exposed if locals somehow glimpsed a test flight of, say, the F-117 stealth fighter, an aircraft that truly did look out of this world. Better that they believe it came from Andromeda. This episode, reported now for the first time, was just one of a series of discoveries the Pentagon team made as it
just for those tuning in and who are like, what is going on? We are listening to an AI voice read a story at the Wall Street Journal talking about the Pentagon disinformation campaign about UFO mythology. Sorry, continue, please.
Investigated decades of claims that Washington was hiding what it knew about extraterrestrial life. That effort culminated in a report released last year by the Defense Department that found allegations of a government cover-up to be baseless. In fact, a Wall Street Journal investigation reveals the report itself amounted to a cover-up, but not in the way the UFO conspiracy industry would have people believe. The public disclosure left out the truth behind some of the foundational myths about UFOs. The Pentagon itself sometimes deliberately fanned the flames in what amounted to the US government targeting its own citizens with disinformation. To hear the full story, subscribe or...
I am shocked. I can't believe the Pentagon would lie to us. I've never heard of such a thing. This is not American. There's no precedence of the government lying to us at all. I'm shocked. Was the X-Files just a wild goose chase this whole time? I really want to see. So we've been seeing all these UFO hearings. I'd love to see this line of questioning because this is curious. We know they do this psyops, all these, a collection of psyops on us all the time. They want you to look over here when they're doing something else over there. It's their MO. They always do it. And we know that people like companies like Lockheed Martin and their Skunk Works program are building things we just can't even imagine. Just like think back, well, not that we were alive for it. Maybe some of you out there maybe some of our listeners are, very old and were alive in the 40s. But imagine the atom bombs falling out of the sky all of a sudden, and they were working secretly on the Manhattan Project. They've been building crazy stuff that we can't even comprehend. So I'd love to see that line of questioning with this stuff with some Pentagon officials, and also how it works with the whistleblowers. I love hearing the whistleblowers who go to these UFO hearings. I don't really believe some of them. Some of them have been caught lying big time. I forget which one it was. Maybe Luizondo, I forget his name, but he showed what looked like a UFO mothership over some city. And, it turns out that was a fake image. He did apologize for it and he was duped, but it just goes to show you can't trust everything from these people. I'm sure you guys listening already know that, but that kind of stuff does a lot to discredit what is happening or the mystery of all this crazy stuff happening out there. And the Soviet thing is very interesting as well. That connection, we think of what this country was doing during the Cold War. They were doing anything they could to prove to the Soviets that, we were ahead of them. And in a little bit, we'll pull up the Annie Jacobson clip from Rogan from 6 years ago, talking about something I bring up quite a bit, but I think it'd be worth it to hear her say it about the government mutilating disabled children to make them look like quote unquote extraterrestrials to show the Soviets that we had them in our possession. So nothing is above them and the things they do. If we want to pull up maybe the other article that has a little more to talk about this stuff, and they use these silly pictures, of course. Mm-hmm. So this is from the Daily Caller. Pentagon disinformation fueled America's UFO mythology. And again, I don't think this should take away from all UFO mythology, because there are reports from things in the sky that people can't explain that date back hundreds of years. There's old paintings of things in the sky. There's that we can't explain now. There's stuff carved into old architecture we can't explain. Something's happening. And then we've talked about ancient breakaway civilizations, and perhaps, but let's see if the Daily Caller gives us a little more context here. A recent Wall Street Journal investigation reveals that much of America's UFO mythology has been fueled by Pentagon disinformation campaigns designed to cover up real secret weapons programs, not extraterrestrial encounters. The report uncovers that as early as the 1950s, the U.S. military spread doctored photos and false stories, such as doctored images of flying saucers at Area 51 to mislead the public and protect classified stealth fighter projects. Rather than hiding alien technology, the military sought to keep secret the development of advanced weapons systems critical to national security during the Cold War. Now, another thing I'm thinking is that what if it is alien tech and this is just a psyop to make you think it was not alien tech because they're just not ready for disclosure yet, full disclosure. It's just funny because we are now in the age of like disclosure. We're seeing UFO hearings all the time. It's not as taboo as it once was. And the government's been talking about it a whole bunch. Can you scroll down past the tweet? Okay. The Pentagon's congressionally ordered probe led by Chief Scientist Sean Kirkpatrick found that disinformation was often propagated by local commanders as well as possibly by institutional programs, creating fertile ground for decades of myths. These myths were sometimes allowed to flourish intentionally to misdirect foreign intelligence. And you and me. It's not just us. It's not just them. In 2023, investigators uncovered a bizarre hazing ritual within the Air Force's classified programs, where new commanders were shown fake photos of supposed anti-gravity vehicles and told to keep the secret, fueling further misinformation. The Department of Defense plans to release a follow-up report detailing these findings later this year. So I'm very interested in all that. And people who've been watching the show for quite some time, hearing that last paragraph might make you think of the stuff Ashton Forbes talks about. You know, I've got my reservations about the Malaysian airplane video, but I don't have reservations about the technology, the secret technology that they've been building. I do think they've been trying to create portals. I mean, you look at all the particle smashers alone, that we know about. So this, where are we? Meanwhile, the Pentagon's public 2024 report on unidentified anomalous phenomena, I hate that UFO rebrand. Anyway, omitted key facts to protect classified programs and avoid embarrassment, leaving the public suspicious. Republican members of Congress have formed a caucus demanding more transparency on UFO crash retrieval programs. And there's a storied history of all that, a lot of mystery surrounding that. There's some story going around that I tried getting more info out of Rep Burleson when he was on the Culture War podcast with Tim and Tony Merkel. Didn't get the answers I was looking for. I don't think he has them, honestly. If you guys watch that show, you'll know when I asked him when I told him one of the more frustrating things about those hearings, it's when they're asked a question that's very interesting, the whistleblowers that is, or the people testifying. And the answer is, we can only talk about that behind closed doors. And Rep Burleson's answer to me was, we get behind closed doors and they tell us they still can't tell us behind closed doors. It's all theater. Or they don't know what they're talking about, or they're part of the PSYOP and they don't know it. But there's clearly something going on. And I think a lot of the crazy stuff we see, especially around military bases, is Lockheed Martin stuff or Raytheon, who knows. But I'm going to continue real quick. In this article, the investigation also revealed chilling Cold War era incidents, such as in 1967, when nuclear missile launch systems were mysteriously disabled by electromagnetic tests, which some former Air Force personnel still believe were caused by alien craft. Yeah, that story's been going around. There's other stories like that, very possible. Or it's us having developed technology to do that to others, which also doesn't seem beyond the realm of possibility. The article goes on to say, this is a gigantic cover-up, said Robert Salas, a former Air Force captain interviewed by the Wall Street Journal, who believes the military has concealed vital truths from the public and even its own personnel. And that's just it. I think they lie about everything. They don't trust us. They're condescending to us. They don't like us. Everything they're doing, they're building stuff without anyone knowing so they can just keep doing their wars and making a ton of money that's being funded with no oversight with our taxpayer money. Another one of the most frustrating things at these hearings is hearing a lot of these companies testify and being like, Yeah, we have no oversight, and I agree with even AOC. I know I'm about to get hit by lightning, but even she has come out and said, because she was on one of these hearings about a year ago, and said this is ridiculous that Lockheed and Raytheon and others like them can just go about doing all this stuff, and we have no idea what's going on. But that shouldn't shock anybody. And if I sound out of breath, it's because I just ran here from Timcast IRL. And right before Brandon saw a UFO in the sky. So it's a strange night. Welcome to all the people who are joining us. Shout out to Tim and IRL for the Rumble raid. Much appreciated. You guys rule. It was a fun episode with Michael Malice. We got into it about demons. And yeah, at some point we'll have him on and talk about some Soviet UFOs. What do you think about all this?
I mean, are we really surprised? You know,
I'm shocked.
it's like, it's really just not shocking, you know.
Do you want to pull up some of the, well, actually, if you can find the Kirkpatrick article I sent you, I forget where it was from, but it was about the guy who was talking about these, the cover-ups and what he's gone through. Something about, I believe it was him, like, he's been attacked, more or less.
Was it the Redstone guy,
I forget.
the scientist?
Maybe, yeah. He was referencing that first article. I forget where I sent it from. But there's something there because, like, I don't know if this is his story, but there's other people who are whistleblowers who have talked about, they've testified this. They've been attacked by the government for releasing information. And for those who are extra skeptical, such as myself, that could just help them, that could be part of their story. It could help them appear more credible. Always keep that in mind. I'm skeptical of everything, but I'm always skeptical of my skepticism. Welcome to my paranoid brain. But I think, look at these stories. You kind of have to be. But there's people who then also said they've been attacked, physically harmed by quote unquote UFOs, whatever that might be. A few weeks ago, we talked about the Russian soldier's story that was declassified in some of these papers over here, where they claimed a UFO turned a bunch of Russian soldiers to stone. Now, I don't know. And there's also been scientists, whistleblowers who've talked to, I believe it was Tucker Carlson, saying they've talked to people who've been like seriously damaged by some sort of UFO. So this is about Sean Kirkpatrick. He was referenced in a Wall Street Journal article that we read. And he's faced threats for his work, and a new report concluding no evidence UAPs represented extraterrestrial tech has sent ufology into a tailspin. Great word to use. Sean Kirkpatrick doesn't seem too thrilled to be chatting with me about UFOs, the article says. Since taking over the Pentagon's All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, also known as AARO, in 2022, government speak for UFO hunting, Kirkpatrick has received violent threats, social media smear campaigns, and even had to call the FBI after a UFO fanatic showed up at his home. Don't do that. Don't do that. Or maybe it was an alien. I don't know. Dressed as a fanatic. I've seen Men in Black. I've had people threaten my wife and daughter and try to break into our online accounts far more than I have ever had as the deputy director of the intelligence of U.S. Strategic Command, Kirkpatrick says. I didn't even have China and Russia trying to get on me as much as these people are. And, you know, I'm not so surprised because there is a lot of fanaticism around it and there's a lot of mystery, and there's a lot of lies. And this is something that was, like I said, super taboo for a very long time. Now the government's been kind of like engineering this new way of doing it with the rebrand into UAP, with the hearings. We've had Congress people talking about interdimensional beings, talking about, you know, Lockheed Martin supposedly receiving alien tech. We've heard them talk about alien bodies being taken. We talked about that last week a little bit. One of the callers even had I believe it was a grandfather who was at the Flatlands monster retrieval site, let's say, or at least the crash site. Something is happening. And I think it's a little bit of both of these things we can't explain that are not from this dimension, and Lockheed Martin and others doing whatever they're doing. I've had people, okay, I read that. So after 18 months in the job, Kirkpatrick called it quits last December. Then last week, AARO published the first part of a report he had worked on that concluded there was no evidence that any U.S. government investigation, academic sponsored research, or official review panel has confirmed that any sighting of a UAP represented extraterrestrial technology. Guys, it's just hilarious. One of my favorite things is from the New York Times, maybe 2015, 2014, whole big report about it. They said, I'm going to paraphrase it, but it was something along the lines of, our government has in their possession a vehicle not made of this earth. What does that mean? No one really cared. Maybe because they saw it in the New York Times and they're like, well, this is a place that always lies. And that, now that I'm thinking about it, is part of this campaign, perhaps, that they were doing, that the Pentagon's been doing. So I'm not really surprised. But something like that in the UFO community like took off and created a lot of this buzz that we're now seeing in the committees. So after all, it was only in July last year that the former intelligence officer David Grush told a packed congressional hearing that for decades, the U.S. government had been hoarding crashed alien spaceships and attempting to reverse engineer them. True believers thought we were getting closer than ever to full disclosure. It was only a matter of time until the government would wheel out the flying saucers onto the White House lawn. I just feel like they've been lying to us about a lot of this stuff. You know, again, something we can't explain that is not human is happening. I really do believe that. I think it's demons. You know, you can call it extraterrestrials, whatever you want to talk, however you want to interpret it. Something's happening. But the fact that it's so hush-hush and these people go behind closed doors and they still can't talk about it, it tells me, at least, that this is national security. And for those listening, I'm putting that in quotes because national security is also just totally a bogus phrase. It's never national security. It's security for them, not for us. They're building things to destroy all of us. You know, who knows what they've made? They probably got ray guns in their underground bunkers right now that look like The Martian.
You think they've gotten to the? You think they've gotten to the cloning phase of the of these supposed aliens?
Decades ago, decades ago.
Like I know we got masks and costumes. You know,
I for sure.
They're using that lady's. What was that lady's name with the replicating cells?
Jonna Mendez. Yeah, and she gets mad if you don't say her name right. It's Jonna.
No. The lady from like the 20s or the 40s that had the cell that was just.
Oh, Henrietta Lacks.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. For sure, dude. Dude, they've been experimenting on us biologically forever. I guarantee they've got something that they can't explain. I don't know what it is. You know, the people have a certain idea of what an alien is or where that comes from. There's many different interpretations, interdimensional from another planet, ancient breakaway civilization that's human, that left Earth after some sort of like catastrophe that Graham Hancock might talk about. I don't know. I don't know. I'm just a flawed little human being with a tiny brain on the internet.
You're here.
Like all of us. But so this is the phrase, this is the word they use. Further down in this article, it says, crucially, Grush said he hadn't seen the spaceships and biologics, so that's the word, I'm sure you've all heard it, with his own eyes. Of course, right? Someone in the intelligence community told him the story. So it's a lot of this stuff is like, there's a middleman telling them. And that middleman might have been sent by the Pentagon to cover up Lockheed Martin. So with that in mind, let's pull up some of those articles that show us some of the things that Lockheed Martin has been building. So for those who don't know what Skunk Works is, that's their their advanced development programs for like aeronautics. And it started in like 1943. So you can imagine how many crazy scientists in America working alongside Operation Paperclip scientists building insane things underground. You know, Skunk Works, I believe they've got stuff in Area 51, which might, you know, be some of the things we've seen out there. So Skunk Works, when is this from? 2021. Skunk Works, and this is just what they want you to see. Skunk Works, really, it's not even about us. They want the Soviets to see it if they're not already spying on them, which they are. Skunk Works reveals its secret speed racer aircraft. Now, that thing is crazy looking. That's like a rocket with wings. It's like a needle. That's insane looking. All right, let's go down here and see what they call this stuff. Lockheed Martin has revealed its new speed racer uncrewed aerial vehicle.
So it's a giant drone with a needle on the front.
Man, the aircraft is the first to use star drive, a new set of digital engineering tools. Skunkworks, Lockheed's famous Advanced Projects Design Bureau that built the SR-71 Blackbird, developed Speed Racer. Oh, is there a video? A new video from Lockheed Martin includes an exciting Easter egg, the first real glimpse of a recently teased secret aircraft.
Yeah,
Let's
like
watch
have
this
one. Let's see what
video.
happens here.
This is what you just saw in the sky. Like, that's UFO.
Does anyone else feel like we're at the movies?
Yeah, right? That's the intent. This is making me want to invest in the military-industrial complex. Because this is just, we're just showing the people a commercial. This is just a highly produced robot commercial for Skunkworks.
This is a preview. The mixtape's dropping this summer.
Like, how is that real? That's crazy. That is crazy.
It thing literally looks like it's coming to vaccinate you.
If they could. That's why they called it warp speed.
Oh my god.
Chemtrail.
Yep,
Right,
two of
there
them.
you go. My goodness. I didn't know it was going to be like a commercial like that.
This film is not yet rated.
So wild. Is there others in this one, or was that the other thing I sent?
There's a bunch of stuff. So we got this one looks fun.
Yeah.
The super secret weapons facility. Super secret. It's so
Yeah.
super secret that we took a picture of it and we have to tell you that it's super secret
Right,
so that
right.
you don't like think it's not.
Well, they can't show you the underground base, you know. They probably got a whole network, miles and miles of an underground base and city.
The Pepula P mascot is awesome.
That is
I'm trying to
wild.
understand the symbolism behind the skunk for these guys, but
Yeah, I don't know where the Skunkworks name came from. We should look that up. But this is fascinating. What is the headline here?
this is Inside Skunkworks Lockheed's super secret weapons facility. The world's largest defense contractor opens the gate to its aircraft factory in the desert.
So this is just the UFO factory. 62 miles north of Los Angeles. This desert town, known as America's Aerospace Valley, is home to one of the most secretive aircraft design production programs on the planet, and we're going to dox it in this article. Few are allowed in, but the sky is littered with clues of the work being done behind the high fences topped with barbed wire. It's routine to spot a U-2 spy plane or a Janet 737, a highly classified fleet of aircraft used to shuttle military and contractors between Palmdale and places such as, you guessed it, Area 51, the storied Nevada base. Back on the ground at the corner of Sierra Highway and Avenue N, they literally are like, this is so secret, we're giving you the location. Drop the pin. Sits an empty lot with a flagpole in the center. Jet spotters and spies from all over the world gather here to catch a glimpse. Why are we letting spies from all over the world in? That seems counterintuitive. Clicking away as the newest, most top secret aircraft soar above Skunkworks, Lockheed Martin's research and development facility. It's their only chance to see them. There's no view of the runway or the plane sitting on the tarmac. For just a few hours last month, Lockheed invited a select group of reporters to tour the massive facility, lifting the veil behind its magic workshop for the first time in 8 years. Skunkworks produced the U-2 spy plane that could and still does collect images from 70,000 feet, the SR-71 Blackbird. So it's going to list a few things. And that just reminds me, this is new. Nothing new, guys. I mean, you know this listening. You know what else Lockheed does. They make the spy satellites. Yeah, we've talked about the show quite a bit. Some of my favorite being the spy satellite that has the devil painted onto it that says, better the devil you know. Or the spy satellite that has the octopus on it that says, nothing is beyond our reach. It's very comforting to know that Lockheed has that in their possession. That's just two. You can go look up how many they have that they're willing to tell us. What I find interesting about this article is, how does this happen? The Skunkworks, well, I guess they kind of tell us. Skunkworks is like, hey, we need some PR so we can tell the world what we've been up to. So they reach out to their favorite journalists, invite them out for a show. It's hilarious to me because it doesn't sound like they've been bothered. I'm sure they have been bothered by journalists being like, hey, we want to know. But it's like all of a sudden we need to get some of the stuff out there. Just the stuff, that we're allowed, that we want them to know about. Like it's not just to scare people. There's so many different angles, I think, of why they do this. Perhaps even to recruit,
I was going to say it definitely will generate a buzz on the other half of that.
Right. Oh, for sure. For sure. All the other countries doing the same thing now. They want to build it. They want to copy what they're seeing. Like, why invite like the spies from all around the world? What is that about?
I mean, usually that means that you want to work with them, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean, we do have lots of, okay, to be fair, we do have the Five Eyes spy program with lots of different countries. So there is that, and we could invite spies that we're friendly with, which is a weird thing to think about.
I mean, if they're trying to fund the tech that's going to defend them from, otherworldly visitors and things like that, weapons, things that we don't understand or are not of this world, then, who better to sell to than all of, the conspirators on the other side with all the money?
Yeah, for sure. And then I like to imagine that they all just take a long elevator ride to the bottom where J-Rod is. Remember, was it J-Rod we talked about? The alien who's been here helping us reverse engineer his crash technology.
I'd like to see his tax forms. I think we should release J-Rod's tax forms.
Yeah. Where's because he's technically an illegal immigrant.
Yeah, but he was also employed.
True.
Did he not have a W-2? I mean, this guy was a federal employee. Was he
not? Is this not in California? Where all the rioting for illegal immigrants is happening?
I'm saying.
Interesting. Coincidence?
Produce some documentation, damn it.
What's his social security number? Who is J-Rod? Does he have a family? He's probably been cloned, just like you're right, Henrietta Lacks.
You think he has a work email? He's got to have a work email, right?
At Skunkworks, J-Rod at Skunkworks. Someone hit that email and see what comes back.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, he's going to type in like some weird hieroglyphics. Were there any other images of weird stuff in this article?
This is another... That looks like a Blackbird to me right there. This looks like it's more of the aircraft. It's definitely F-117 Nighthawk.
It's crazy how fast those things go.
That's the SR-71 Blackbird. That thing is a beast.
I imagine seeing that thing in the night sky. I mean,
not.
or not. Exactly.
How do you see that?
Or not. Yep. It's beautiful. It's insane. We built that with our taxpayer money, guys, so we should all be proud. It's insane. Imagine it's not even real. They just make it. No.
Yeah. It's AI generation. Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't put it past them. Not all Skunkworks creations, this article says, went on to be iconic, of course, and many fizzled out entirely. Such is the reality when you're pushing the bounds of what's possible. Here are a few of the group's most eye-catching productions. So what do we have here? The Have Blue. That is an interesting guy. When is this from? It's a Cold War era.
I was going to say that definitely looks old.
Yep. The next one is the D-21. That thing's crazy looking.
It's kind of ugly.
Yeah, not so great. Aesthetically, not pleasing.
That's unmanned, so...
And it flies at an altitude of 90,000. It goes 2,200 miles per hour. Outfitted with a single camera. After imaging its intended target, the craft was supposed to eject the camera module with a parachute and self-destruct.
Wow.
With the module to be retrieved later. They built 38 of these things in the 60s. Interesting. What else we got?
How many did they build?
38.
Man, I wonder if any of them were ever even used.
Yeah.
You gotta wonder what the budget on one of these things is opposed to 30.
Oh, I know. What does that say? But the operational life of the drone was cut short as it was embarrassingly unruly. All 4 of its missions conducted over China failed in varying ways. The program was canceled in 1971. So now China has that tech and improved upon it.
So we gave them 4 of these things.
So you see how like UFOs then go international, at least these kind, and they're just sending it back to us or weather balloons because they seem to be doing that as well.
If that's 4 failed, that leaves 34 of these units that are still in working order somewhere.
Yeah, let's get one. Put it in this room. Let's just do a podcast.
We need a line into the Air Force.
Yeah. If anyone out there is working at Skunkworks, how do we get one of those? I'm telling Tim Pool, I need one of those right now. As a stealth reconnaissance, so this is the RQ-170 Sentinel. As a stealth reconnaissance unmanned aerial vehicle, which is currently in service, most of the details about Skunkworks Sentinel are classified. Moreover, the only public images that exist are either computer renderings, like we were just talking about, or grainy photos. It has a wingspan of about 65 feet and is roughly 15 feet long. So, yeah, that's interesting looking. What is this one down here? That is really, this is the X59 Quest with 2 S's. Not all of Skunkworks projects are military in nature. Since 2016, the engineering division has been designing a quiet supersonic aircraft for NASA. The hope is that by significantly dulling the thunderous sonic boom of faster-than-sound flight, supersonic passenger aircraft can be built and operated that don't assault the ears of people on the ground. When its flight tested this year, the X-59 is expected to cruise at 937 miles per hour.
Cruise.
Wow. Yeah, just cruise.
Just taking a stroll.
What
Almost
else we
1,000
got?
miles an hour.
The Sea Shadow. We don't have to read all of these, but that...
What?
What? Okay, now I have to know what the Sea Shadow is. That's very interesting. Perhaps the coolest looking vessel to ever be mothballed.
Of course.
The Sea Shadow was a catamaran-style ship designed to be invisible to sonar and radar. And this is a great thank you article for reminding me about the other thing about these congressional hearings is you never hear... every time it's brought up, what is going on underwater in terms of UAPs, they're like, yeah, we definitely can't talk about that. And I think there's a lot of weird stuff. And this is an example, although this is on the surface, what are they doing down there now? While it never quite fulfilled the lofty goal, it was supposed to be invisible to sonar and radar, chiefly on account of the wakes it made while sailing, aspects of its stealthy design were adapted to modern submarines and U.S. Navy destroyers. The Sea Shadow was featured in the James Bond film Tomorrow Never Dies, in which it was used by the villain in an attempt to start World War III. Yeah, that looks about right.
I think that we should move the podcast into one of these things.
I think that would actually be better.
Yeah.
We'll just float it down the river.
Yeah.
You know?
I'm going to put that in the suggestion box. I want one.
So curious what you guys think. I don't want to, bring up all the Lockheed stuff and be like, this is what everything is. Because there's obviously stuff happening out there we don't know. And it's been going on for a very long time. Like I've talked about the things I've seen. Who knows what Brandon saw earlier. Things are going on. But it is curious that a lot of the stuff that people do report, and a lot of the stuff that the hearings talk about is stuff pulled from sightings near military bases, to which I always say, okay, maybe it's some sort of extraterrestrial studying our bases, kind of along the lines of that story we just heard earlier about something turning off nuclear missiles, or it's Lockheed Martin doing joyrides around military bases and just not telling anybody. Like we heard the gentleman who called in last week saying, he had clearance and he should have known certain things, but obviously there's things that just go way above people with clearance, and there's levels to that. So I don't know. Do we have callers?
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe we'll come back and do the Annie Jacobson thing because that's a bit of a longer clip. But I feel like we did the Lockheed thing. See if I've missed anything on my notes. But oh yeah, I had one correction.
Okay.
I want to make.
Yeah.
Because if you missed last week, I started my new segment about corrections because I mess up a lot, and you guys call me on it, so I appreciate it. We were talking about Elon's Black Eye Club. I got it wrong. I knew it felt wrong as I was saying it. His right eye had a black eye, but the Black Eye Club has traditionally been the left eye. So maybe the Illuminati switched it up, but or maybe something else happened. But it does seem like he might have gotten into a fight. The more I'm hearing reports from people in that world, it sounds like he might have been into a fight.
Maybe that just means that he has more of like an officer role.
Ooh,
and,
there you
that's
go.
like he's
let's,
got it on
let's
the
roll
other.
with that. Yeah, let's roll with that. Whatever it was weird, and who knows what's going on with all that. But we'll go to callers now, and as you can see below me on the screen, call into the show. We got a link pinned in the chat. If you got weird stories, if you got a thought about the Lockheed Martin stuff, the Pentagon lying, if you're surprised at all that the government might lie to you, give us a call. But the callers last week were amazing, and I want to thank everyone again who called in, everyone who's been supporting the show with the new schedule. Shout out to all you guys. It's been incredible. And let's take a caller.
All right. Let's go to Teresa. Teresa, you're live on Inverted World. Can you hear us?
It's Lockheed Martin. This is like a warning. You shouldn't be talking about us. Teresa, are you there?
I don't see a mic for her.
Uh-oh.
Wah, wah.
Teresa, if you can hear us, maybe we'll come back to you.
Yeah, you got no mic. Get yourself a mic.
So again, I'll repeat myself for those listening. Audio only for the call-ins. Call in, tell us a story. And something always to remember is make sure the stream is turned down in the background and your volume is all the way up so we can hear you. And everyone else can hear you. But we'll try someone else. And Teresa, please call back. We'll try again.
All right. Let's bring in TJP.
Hello, hello.
TJP, what's up? Can you hear us?
I can indeed.
How you doing, man?
What's up, guys? How
What's
y'all
up?
doing?
Doing great. Doing great. Happy you're here. Thanks for calling.
What's up, guys?
We're good. Can you hear us?
I can indeed.
Okay, good.
Fantastic.
We're happy you're here, and we'd love to hear your story.
Yeah, so a little bit of background about me. I grew up across all over the United States. Dad got a new job every 5 years. So I am LDS, otherwise known as Mormon. So a little bit of background about our religion is we believe that after you die, your spirit stays on this earth, and that you perpetually are here kind of until Christ comes again and the resurrection happens. And then after that, so I served a mission in San Jose, California. So right in belly of the beast, like crazy stuff, all this other stuff. And there was a we call them sister, or a lady missionary, and she could see spirits. So I talked to her a bunch, and while she was teaching people the gospel, she would actually be teaching spirits. So even if the people who she was sitting in front of weren't actually receiving the message or weren't really cooperating or weren't really interested, she would continue to teach these spirits around her. So one of my personal beliefs is that all these people who are seeing ghosts and all these people who are seeing these spirits, it's because they have a spiritual gift along those lines of being able to see those spirits, but they're not, they either it's not constantly on, or they're not attuned, or certain things are going on with all these different ghost stories. So that's kind of my take on the spirits, is that they are actual spirits of people who have been here, who have lived and everything else, but that some people have those gifts. That's why some people can see the spirits and some people can't.
What is the LDS Church's view on all this stuff? Is it taboo?
So no, not really. It depends on again, this is just me speaking. Like I'm not going to say this is the church's official stance on it, but it's kind of like we're really open to discussions. We're really open for people to ask questions and kind of go through and understand these kind of things. So it's one of those things where it's like, it's not talked about from the pulpit, but like if you talk to a random person in the congregation, you're not going to be like poo-pooed and be like, we don't talk about that kind of stuff.
Right. Like, is there a view of it that like this is demons and you should be wary of it?
So that's the thing, is for every power there is an equal and opposite power. So like Satan has power on this earth. Like until Christ comes again, until the millennium happens, until there is peace for 1,000 years, Satan is going to be involved in everyday life for everybody, just the same way that the Holy Spirit's involved with everything. Like everything good comes from Christ, but everything bad comes from the devil. Like that, like Lucifer has power on this earth, and that's something I don't think people understand.
No, definitely not. And then you have to, if you're one of these people who can speak to a spirit, whatever it is, you have to be able to discern what you're talking to, I guess. Because I think it's very tough, because, you know, we hear a lot of stories about people were talking with something. And I think a lot of times these spirits pretend to be nice, right? And conversational. Yeah. And it's to maybe pull you away from Christ, or, you know, from goodness. You know, I think that happens quite a bit.
So that's the fun part about the LDS Church, is we actually have a lot more things behind it that kind of pertains to this kind of stuff than a lot of other religions do. So something there was a lot of spirits going on in the early days of our church, kind of spirit, like angels coming in, visiting, teaching people, and doing all these things. And our prophet Joseph Smith, he kind of laid out the groundwork how to tell what spirits are good and what spirits are evil.
Well,
So he would reach out his
about
hand basically and go want a handshake, and what would happen? One of three things would happen. Either they would reach out and shake his hand, and they were resurrected beings. So think Peter, James, John, the disciples of Christ, or anybody who was resurrected when Christ was resurrected. The spirit would say, I cannot, for I do not have a body. And that would be the good spirits. And then the evil spirits would try to shake your hand because they're going to be trying to lie to you, try to trick you, and their hand would pass straight through you. So that would be kind of the ways that he has laid out, that we kind of can discern which is good and which is evil for those spirits.
I've always wanted to ask, what is one thing people you hear getting wrong about LDS Church all the time?
Oh, the list goes and on.
You guys are the punchlines of a lot of jokes.
Nuts whenever I'm listening to Tim Pool or these other podcasts or Joe Rogan or all these other podcasts, they bring up Mormons, and it's like, dude, there's so many misconceptions about everything. I'd say the biggest one is people not thinking that we believe in the same Jesus Christ. I think that is the number one thing that I've kind of heard of people saying, well, you're not Christian. It's like, no, we are Christian. We believe in the same Jesus Christ. He died on our cross for our sins. He was resurrected 3 days later, and he will come again. So I will say this. Yeah. I think with me growing up across the United States, I have a really different view of a lot of people who are in Utah. It drives me nuts. There's a lot of cultural things here in Utah that truly drive me nuts. But I will say this: if the most important thing is you're just trying to do your best, that's the biggest thing.
That should go for all of us. Yeah. One of my favorite things about the LDS Church is their amazing doomsday bunker.
Yep.
Dude, you should pull up a picture if you can.
Look up LDS the mountains in Salt Lake, bunker. We have all sorts of stuff. I
have been trying to get in there. So anytime I see a Mormon,
this is whose church now?
The LDS Church doomsday. I don't know if they call it a doomsday bunker, but it essentially is a doomsday bunker because it's like, isn't it all the records of the Mormons?
Yeah. So there's a bunch of records, a bunch of the church's like gold and different kind of possessions. There's also a bunch of historical stuff in there too. So it's kind of the church's way of like preserving historical items, records, anything that we might need in case of anything kind of happening.
Because you guys are doomsday preppers. Like yes. It's baked in.
Yeah. So we are encouraged to have 6 months worth of food and water at all times.
Also, you might know this, the LDS Church, I think, is the largest landowner in America.
Yes. We own, because in the early days of the church, most of the tithing that was given to the church was not actually money. Mm-hmm. It was land. So like the largest cattle ranch out in Florida is owned by the LDS Church.
Right. Did you find anything? There's like beautiful images of it from the outside. No one's allowed in it. Although I've been trying. I've reached out to elders. I'm like, because it's actually beautiful architecture. Really a beautiful spot. But it's you can't find it. It's really wild. It's like in a mountain.
I think the word doomsday is throwing it all off. So I'm just gonna get that out of there.
What else would you call it?
LDS historical. I'd say like.
I mean, I see something about a granite mountain records vault. Is that what this is?
Yeah. That's a very sanitized way of saying doomsday bunker.
Yes. I mean, that's another one of our doctrines is that before the end of times we will be called to Jackson County, Missouri.
Really?
So if you see all of a sudden a bunch of Mormons gathering to Jackson County, is stuff's going down.
Okay. So I need to somehow put a GPS on Mitt Romney so I can figure out.
Dude, I hate Mitt.
I
hate Mitt Romney, dude.
He set you guys back. But you do have the singer of the Killers.
Yeah.
Oh no, not good either.
We also have the Imagine Dragons singer too. I don't know if he's active or not.
Okay. I don't know about that one. So for those watching, this is the article is what is really inside the Mormon Church's Granite Mountain Records vault, and that's beautiful. It looks like a level from the old 007 Nintendo game. Like that's where you would, go fight.
Yeah, the snow level.
yeah.
One of the first. I can't remember where
Can
you
you
were.
scroll down?
Somewhere in Russia.
Are there any images of the inside? Oh, there's a video.
This is a 5-minute video.
Okay, we don't have to watch it now. I don't want to keep him on.
Actually,
here.
this might just be a screenshot of a video
But yeah,
because it's not actually doing anything.
Did you have any other stories for us before I derail?
So that's the thing about the LDS church is there's actually a bunch of stuff kind of with cryptids and stuff.
Oh, really?
So this is another story. So Brigham Young, after Joseph Smith, our founder, was assassinated, Brigham Young took over the church, and this is this is a story from somebody that heard it from somebody that heard it. So who knows how true it is?
Mm-hmm.
But him and a bunch of the early brethren of the church were out on horseback. This is out in like the Utah area, or was it Virginia? Or was it Nauvoo? I can't remember. It was either Nauvoo or Virginia, and they were out on horseback, and they saw Bigfoot.
Nice.
And like Bigfoot like walked up and was talking with them, and basically what happened was Brigham Young is get thee hence Cain. So in the LDS church, we believe that Cain is Bigfoot.
Cain,
Like the
Cain and Abel?
Cain, the Cain that murdered his brother Abel in the Bible still walks this earth today, and he is Bigfoot.
Okay.
Is one of the things
I have never heard of this.
Yes.
Please
That's a new
tell
one.
me.
You should look it up. It's a pretty crazy story. So
How is
again,
this? How is this something that
Go
Brigham
ahead.
Young said? Is that where that comes from exactly, or is there like a deeper lore to
So
that?
it was an account of somebody who was with Brigham Young who told somebody else who wrote it down. So
Oh,
again,
okay.
who like maybe not. It might be true. It might not be true. It's one of those things that it's from somebody's mouth, from somebody's mouth, from somebody's mouth.
Mhm.
But that's one of my personal beliefs. Yeah, I could see it. Like
So-
Cain got the mark, and he's still on this earth, and maybe there is just Bigfoot out there walking around, and it's just one big hairy Cain.
Is there a gospel according to Bigfoot?
A gospel according to Bigfoot. That one I don't know.
If not, I'm gonna write it. No, I've never heard that before, and I wonder if there's any I've never heard that from all the Bigfoot community. I feel like they'd be into that.
Yeah.
That's a
So
very
look
interesting
at
connection.
look it up when you guys get a chance. Just look up Brigham Young Bigfoot, and it should pop up with a story with it. It's pretty crazy.
That's incredible. Yeah, I've never heard that. Thanks for sharing that. Did you have anything else for us?
Oh, dude, I have all sorts of stories, man.
How about?
But I'll have to call in another time and
Yeah,
talk to y'all about it.
Please call in another time. We'll continue this. That was great. That was a great first call of the night. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, guys, I appreciate it. I've been listening to you guys. You guys started out with Tim Pool and everything else, and I started listening to it. I always find this kind of talk super interesting. So.
We really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks for calling.
Yeah,
in,
dude.
man.
Bigfoot and the LDS Church.
In
Incredible.
in cahoots.
Incredible. Did that video from the Doomsday Bunker have anything, or was it just a still?
That was a still. I mean, I found this. It's kind of overhead. It looks
There-
like it's Google Map-ish. Yeah, Google Earth actually.
There are amazing photos somewhere online of the inside, and
I mean,
It's
the
fascinating.
scale of this thing looks pretty
it's huge.
intense. I mean, you can kind of see. This is like
Yeah, it's huge.
This is a massive mountain wall.
They're in that mountain.
with 5 bay doors carved into to the foot of it.
Man, oh man, incredible.
Let me see what else I can dig up here.
Yeah, yeah. At some point, we'll have to have more. I want more info on Bigfoot and the LDS connection. So, for those who are just now tuning in, you see on the bottom of the screen, link to call the show is pinned in the chat below. Audio only. Tell us a crazy story, or if we've said something or a caller said something that sparked an idea in you, call in. We're here till about 12. And we're trying to take all the callers we can. If we don't get to everybody, we'll try to. We ask you to come back tomorrow night, and we'll talk then. Did you see anything? Guys, the inside is crazy. It's actually insane.
I'm gonna try to probe this video on YouTube because it's here.
I was just like,
It
how do
has
they
to be.
build this thing? But I've actually this year I've been trying to reach out to some people involved in it, seeing if I can somehow sneak in to write a story about it. Because I don't think everyone knows about the Doomsday thing and the land ownership. Like, there's a lot. They own a lot of land. They are preparing.
So I mean, maybe it's just me, but for what? I mean, they're not
in
afraid
end
of
times.
an apocalypse, right?
An end time scenario. Oh, we should
There's
have asked
no
him that.
there's no second coming. Right?
Well, I think
I mean,
I think they do believe in a second coming.
they do.
I think so. I think their view of Christ is similar to other denominations of Christianity, but they have the different prophet But when if he comes back, are there any other Mormons out there? People in the LDS church, call in, let us know. I meant to ask him actually about the afterlife because I think there's a different view of that. But I could be wrong. It could be one of those things I just learned on South Park, honestly. Whereas most of my information comes from as an adult in America. But if you can't find it, it's all good.
I mean,
They scrubbed it. They don't want people going. It's because I keep emailing them trying to get inside.
there's something here about the
that's-
records
yeah.
repository,
I think that's just in the church.
but it's basically just. Well, it's showing a little bit of it. This guy's actually physically standing here, but it doesn't allude to the fact that he actually goes inside.
Yeah, I don't think you're allowed.
No, I wouldn't be surprised.
It's like the ice wall in Antarctica.
Yeah.
Not allowed to go there, and you also can't go in the Granite Mountain Records vault. Well, we can go to another caller then,
Yeah, we can totally do that.
and maybe we'll follow up with this some other time. It's a crazy building.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to do some digging on this because
Yeah.
now I want to know what's in there.
Yeah. Bigfoot.
Yeah,
Bigfoot is in that mountain.
the Mormon version.
Yeah. Well, it's Kane. I like that. That's wild. Wild story.
All right, so let's go to Brian here. Let me bring him in. Brian, do you have a mic? I do not see a mic for you, sir.
Is there a way we can tell them about a mic? Like, is there something you have to click?
I just did.
Interesting.
Now he's got one popping.
All right.
Brian,
sick.
can you hear us? Oh, you are super quiet,
Yeah,
brother.
you're low. If you could speak up.
Hello?
There we
are.
go.
What's up?
What's up?
Well, I can tell you, the last guy's not lying. It is an actual thing in the Bigfoot community that they think Bigfoot is Kane.
Is this a second Mormon caller of the night?
No, I'm not a Mormon. I was calling because my girlfriend told me you guys like Bigfoot, and
Perfect.
I don't have the story of a story. I've got a couple firsthand encounters, so but maybe I should
Okay.
call in
Incredible.
on another night.
No, let's hear them.
The first one I had was when I was 16, and we're talking northern Michigan. And it was in a 79 El Camino.
Nice.
Oh, I got you guys on the PlayStation thing here is
Oh, it's all good. You want to turn it down?
lagging.
No
Anyway,
worries.
so I used to take drives about 10 o'clock at night, and this was probably 10:30. Came around a corner, and what I thought was a big bag of garbage on the road. I'm like, what the fuck? Pardon my language. What the hell?
Your dog didn't like it either.
No, yeah.
No, the dog caught me on the up. And so what happened was I inched up closer to it, and then I thought it was a bear. And so I thought, well, heck, I'm going to make this bear jump. Got closer and closer, and as I finally got within about 5 feet of it, it stood up, and it squared off to my El Camino.
Whoa.
And then, I mean, it was so tall that the head was just out of the headlights. And its shoulders were as wide as the outside of the fenders of my El Camino.
That's huge.
Yeah.
How did you react?
And, I sat there and just stared because those eyes were piercing. They were just bright yellow. And it seemed like an hour, but it was probably 5 seconds. And then I went to honk my horn to make it go away. And then what happened was something told me if I honk this horn, it's going to be a really bad, long day for me. So I just sat there with my hand over the horn for another few seconds. It turned to the left and off it walked.
How did it move?
It just took one step over the guardrail. It didn't jump. It didn't hop. Just literally stepped over the guardrail and it was gone.
Did you smell anything or hear anything?
Nope. All I heard was Boston playing because that was what I was listening to while I was going. And that was my first experience.
That's crazy. What was the second experience?
Well, I finally started doing some research. And for the last 4 years, I've been out in an area in Michigan. And I've been in trouble with the DNR for feeding the bears peanut butter. But as I explained it to the DNR lady, that the bears don't unscrew the caps and put the caps back on.
So something's out there taking the caps off and on.
Yeah, and find it in 20. I found 23-inch prints, and that was the night of a friend and I went out looking, and I saw 2 steps on a hill. So I took a picture of the steps, and then what happened was I said, "Let's go see if we can find it," because there were deer tracks next to it. And so we walked up in the dark, and we could hear the typical, snaps and everything, and wondered what it was. And all of a sudden we heard a huge snap and a huff. She's like, "What the hell?" I said, "I don't know." So I hit the flashlight, and 15 in front of us, there was an 8-footer.
Did it look like
And
the
he was
last
light
one?
brown,
Did it look like the last one?
not as big. He was a little bit shorter, and the first one was black with brown highlights. This one was reddish brown.
We're talking bipedal here, right? It's walking on 2
Yeah.
legs.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, walking on 2 feet. And then as soon as the light hit it, it brought its hand up to its face, and it roared.
Can you?
And it was the loudest. I've been to a few concerts, and it was just like when you're real close to the bass, how it just kind of vibrates through you.
Mm-hmm.
And turned around, and I put my keys in her hand as it roared, and I said, "Go. If I'm not in the truck 30 seconds behind you, you go." And so we're trying to get down the hill. I'm literally, she had stage 4 cancer at the time, so I'm 6 foot 250, picking her up and pushing her because she's not going fast enough for my liking. And you can hear it walking behind us, and it's breaking trees. It's not running, it's just pacing us. So we get to the truck, open the door. I literally push her in the truck, and as my feet hit the icy road, I fall underneath the truck. So now I'm trying to scramble to get out from underneath my truck. My truck starts. I'm like, shit, she's serious. She's going to go. So I don't know if I'm going to get squished by my truck or beat up by Bigfoot at this point.
Jeez.
Luckily, I get in the truck, push her over. We back down the hill, and nobody says anything for about 3 or 4 miles. And I says, "Are you ready for a drink?" And she's like, "No, we need to stop someplace." I'm like, "No, for what?" When it roared, she had wet her pants.
Oh wow.
And luckily she had snow pants on, so she just went into the shell, wrapped her pants up, and wore her snow pants. And we went to the bar and had a couple drinks.
Whoa.
You're going, what the fuck was that about?
When it was running after you, and you're
It
hearing,
just paced us, yeah.
and
It
you're
didn't try to
hearing,
chase us, otherwise it would have got me easy.
okay. Because I was wondering, like, if you heard like its feet, like, could you hear how big it was as it was running after or stomping away? As I'm imagining in my head, it's like stomping.
Yeah, you can hear every step, even in the snow. It was thud, 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 very rhythmic.
Do you still have the pictures?
Yeah, I still got pictures. I got pictures of the tracks from that, and then I went back the next day and tried to recreate those steps. And it took me 11 steps to make the 2 that it did, and I'm kicking snow. The tracks that were there were apart without kicking snow at all. Plus, it had that little heel kick out. When Bigfoot walked, they actually, because of the way their hips are structured from their weight, their heel will kick out. And at the top of the track, you got the heel kick.
Would you mind, if you want, DMing me those on Twitter so I can see the pictures?
Yeah, absolutely.
And we'll pull them up. We might not pull them up tonight, but I'll have them, and we'll pull them up and show everybody.
Yeah, I've got them online.
Sick.
Small YouTube channel. I do a little live show on Friday nights.
Okay, yeah. Send me the YouTube, and we'll shout out the page and everything. But I'd like to see those. What do you think Bigfoot is?
I think everything's on the table.
So-
I've only had flesh and blood experience. I'm not going to say they can't open portals. I just haven't seen it.
Yeah, that is a big theory that he's interdimensional, right?
Yeah, interdimensional or even alien. There's a lot of accounts that go hand in hand.
What did you think? Sorry,
Because I've been deep diving Bigfoot since I was like 5, when Patterson Gimlin first played on In Search of Leonard Nimoy.
do you believe the Patterson footage?
Yeah.
What about the footage? Did you see the footage that came out like last week?
There
There was a new one spotted. I think that was in either Colorado or Ohio.
No, I haven't seen that because actually my fiance is the one who told me I should call in, and she's like, "Well, yeah, they're showing this new footage." And when
So,
she said Colorado, and I said, "Please tell me it's not the train footage," she's like, "No, no, no, it's nothing about a
oh
train."
yeah. No, that one was silly. Yeah, it's because I think there's a lot of silly ones out there. The new one I'm not so sold on. I actually think the Patterson footage looks better. But, I still have my reservations.
Yeah, the only one I think that looks close is probably the Freeman footage,
I don't know if I know that one actually. The
where the
fr-
guys, you can see it walking on the hill, and the guy's been recording it, and he goes like, "Oh, there it goes,"
All right, I'll have to look that up.
and you see it walk off.
Okay, we'll look it up. Did you?
But
Wait, did I?
yeah,
I
I
don't know if
was out
I.
there. I've got
Sorry, I was going to ask. Did you?
dozens of pictures of tracks. I mean,
Did you smell anything the second time?
no, but I do smell stuff occasionally when I'm out. I usually go out a couple weekends. For a while, I was going out 3 days a week and putting 3 jars of peanut butter out per day, 3 times a week. So I was putting 9 jars of peanut butter out.
Are you trying to become friends with Bigfoot?
I don't know if I'd call it friends, but maybe a trust, just so I can see them a little more often
Right,
and maybe under better circumstances.
right.
I've gotten 2 good looks and, a couple peaks. I've gotten, I was trying to tape a recorder up one night and I got the recorder running. And it's funnier than crap because all of a sudden, where I was taping it, you hear a rock hit. I'm like, oh, that's a rock. And then you hear another rock hit. And it's like, okay, they don't like this, but so I leave it anyway. And within 20 minutes of me leaving, you can hear something banging sticks in the woods, and you hear about that samurai chatter.
No, what's that?
Um, Pull up the Sierra Sounds with Ron Moorhead.
Sierra Sound from Ron Moorhead.
Yeah, and you'll hear them.
Try.
That's the most famous language. They actually put that through voice analysis and everything, and with the intonation and the vocal range, is proven out of human range, and it's also proven. Linguists have looked at it. It's second studied only to the Patterson film. That's
Okay.
proven that it's not human, but that is language.
Okay, I think we got it. You want to pull it up?
Those are clearly gunshots.
Okay, we decided that. What do you say to people who are just like, that's a person?
Yeah, they run it through the voice analysis, and there's too much going on in the vocals.
Have you seen those Bigfoot calling contests?
Oh yeah, yeah. There's definitely a difference when you hear something like that. They mimic. I've heard you'll be out in the middle of the day, and all of a sudden you hear what sounds like an 800-pound owl.
That's a crazy description. Do you hunt?
No.
I know a lot of hunter stories. They hear things or they see scratch marks on trees that make no sense.
Yep, I did have a hunter who didn't believe in Bigfoot, and he'd been talking to me for the last couple of years at the gym I worked. And he came in 2 years ago, and he says, "Well, I'm all done hunting in Kalkaska, Michigan." I'm like, "What?" He says, "Yeah, I'm out there, and it was opening day of rifle season." And he was sitting there, and he sees somebody in brown walk right through there, and he's like, "Hey, you dumbass! You know it's rifle season. Where's your orange?" And he said it was a big brown, and it turned around and looked at him and huffed it and turned around and kept walking. And he said, "That wasn't no man looking at me. It was a monkey."
That's crazy. Yeah, there's a lot of weird hunter stories out there. What do you say to the people who are so skeptical of Bigfoot that they're like it's some sort of primate on its hind legs or like a wild man that we just don't understand?
I gave up trying to convince people. If they got their minds made up, I'm not going to bang my head against the wall trying to convince them.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Well, please, if you can, send me the photos or the footage you got, and we'll pull it up at some point.
Yeah, I'll send you the audio too, because the growling that I got was crazy.
Awesome.
We've got a girl who writes for ammunition magazines. And so she's hunted all over the world and been all to these different events. And I played it for her, and she's like, play that again. And I played it 7 times, and she's like, I have never heard anything like that anywhere in the world.
Interesting. Where are you with the Yeti?
What do I think of the Yeti?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I think every continent's got their Bigfoot.
Yeah.
You know, you've got the orang pendek and Indonesia, you got, you know, Australia's Yowie, all of them. And it's so weird. And that's to me more convincing because everybody's been telling the same story for hundreds of years, but nobody had connection to be able to get that same information to people.
And the interdimensional aspect of Bigfoot is because this explains why no one sees him, right? Is that the theory?
Or how you can be following a trackway and it just disappears.
Right. So, and that's your experience with those tracks? You said that, right? You follow the tracks and then just...
I've had that happen one time where I was following tracks, went out into the middle of the field, and it was just gone. It was like, I'm not going to say it was interdimensional because I don't know, but it's possible.
Have you ever thought about where, if they are interdimensional or something like that, where they go?
That's why I'm on the fence about interdimensional. I thought, you know, if they're interdimensional, why come here? There's got to be better interdimensions to come to.
Because you're leaving peanut butter around. They like it.
Yeah, maybe it's because they don't have Jiffa and, you know, Earth 616 or something or whatever it is.
Right. Yeah, I mean, who knows? There could be multiple reasons. Maybe they all have different reasons. It's curious to think. Where if you're not so sold on the interdimensional thing, do you have another theory?
I was leaning toward the Gigantopithecus, but I think it's somewhere in between us and Gigantopithecus, so probably just an undiscovered primate, but an extremely intelligent one.
And for those who don't know, can you tell us about that? 'Cause that's something we actually, scientists have seen, right?
Yeah, they found a couple teeth of it. Supposedly it's supposed to be basically a 10 or 12 foot orangutan, you know, but what is it, 2,000 pounds?
Could be.
So,
But then that means they're still around and we don't know why, you know, we can't explain the disappearance stuff and, you know, how no one can see it. But yeah, the Bigfoot's something I did not think about much growing up, although I was afraid of it as a child because of Harry and the Hendersons. But you know, I've heard lots of hunters with strange stories, and there's something happening in the woods. I mean, I grew up in the woods. I've been chased by things I don't know. Some things were wolves, and there are sounds you can't explain. I wasn't thinking Bigfoot so much, other than whatever was hiding behind my dumpster. I thought there was something else in the woods, but yeah.
yeah, and the other thing that'll get you is when they throw stuff at you.
Yeah, I've heard that too. That's why you said the
hands
rocks.
to throw. You ever see a bear try to throw a pine cone? Doesn't work very well.
No, it doesn't work very well at all. Yeah, so I don't buy like people confusing a bear on its hind legs walking because they walk a certain way. And the people who say they've seen Bigfoot and who are believers in Bigfoot, it doesn't walk like a bear on its hind legs.
Well, bears don't have incredibly large strides.
If you follow the tracks are all in line, and a bear doesn't walk in line.
Right.
People don't walk in line. So to me, that's when I know I've came across, you know, probable Bigfoot tracks. I didn't see them leave it, so I can't, you know, say for sure. But when they're between 19 and 23 inches, it's like I wear a size 15, and you know those toes are 6 inches above my toe of my shoe.
Dang. I mean, maybe you should wear a Bigfoot costume and go in the woods, and they'll be like,
I don't want to be shot.
Oh, true. I don't want you to get shot, but maybe they'll be like, we can be friends.
Be a date.
Well, please do send me those photos, and if anything else happens with Bigfoot, we'll have to have you call back.
That sounds great. I appreciate you taking the call.
Of course. Thank you for calling in.
Have a good night, man.
You too.
2 Bigfoots back to back. Sick. What do you think's out there? You a Bigfoot fan?
I don't know. I mean, yes, but I'm still on that side of the fence that's just not convinced. You know, how do you keep it quiet for so long? How are there only just these random sighting videos with a still frame camera? The original is just, the film is so grainy that it's hard to say, oh yeah, this isn't real, because you can't see a damn thing. But again, it's that same thing for me where the camera is fixed, the angle is perfect, and just cruising through, you know, except for the second one that we watched last week where it was just obviously a guy in a costume playing peekaboo with the cameraman from 500 yards away.
Not
like, that was just, come on, guys.
Yeah, maybe it's part of, maybe this is just another part of the Pentagon's disinformation campaign.
Yep.
It's just government official.
Trying to keep us distracted.
But I do believe in cryptids. And so when I started to believe in certain ones, I was like, well, now I have to be open to Bigfoot, you know, because I do. The Mothman thing is weird. I'm not really sure where I land with Mothman, but there are weird things out there. We also are making them, which is kind of funny, going back to the UFO conversation, which I think there's real things that we just can't explain that are unhuman. And there's Lockheed Martin and other places making things. I think there's also weird creatures that populate the shadows. But we are also building chimeras in laboratories across the world. So, you know, those are like future cryptids when they get released, which is like what my platypus theory was about, like ancient civilizations using ancient CRISPR technology to develop the platypus. But I'm working on that investigation. More to come. We got more callers?
Yeah, we got a bunch of people.
Sick.
They are calling in tonight. Real quick. Awesome. There is a link pinned in the chats on both Rumble and YouTube. If you're just joining us, this is a call-in show. Feel free to hit the link. It'll throw you into Zoom chat, and we'll get you in when we can. Lots of callers tonight, so thank you for that. And shout out to everybody hanging out. If you came over from Timcast, we appreciate you checking out the show.
Definitely. And if we don't get to you tonight, I am sorry. Please call back tomorrow night. We'll take more people. We're still kind of getting used to the schedule of like just shooting it for a little bit in the beginning and taking callers. But I'd be happy if we just do callers for 2 hours. Honestly, we might end up doing that.
We have the technology.
We have the technology. Unlike NASA, that lost the technology to go to the moon. But we'll get back to that some other day. Let's take a caller.
All right, let's do it. So we are going to bring in Jeff, not Jeff, which I believe I know who this man is.
Nice.
Jeff, you got sound?
Hey, buddy.
Yeah, what's up, man?
Is this on the air right now? Or
you are on the air, Inverted World Live, buddy. How you doing?
Hey, buddy, what's going on?
What's going on?
What up?
Should I first off, I gotta say, my theory about Bigfoot is very similar to my theory on ghosts. Like, it's basically been more or less proven that there are different frequencies or whatever of reality, and I believe there are times and places where the veil between those realities is thinned, and Bigfoot might be a holdover from that.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh yeah. Like certain...
that's why it's so ubiquitous, just like ghosts, you know. But you never really get a grasp on it or get any proof of it.
So you're saying it's like the veil is thin in certain places, like it's more location based.
Like there's entities like demons and angels and stuff that populate one dimension or whatever, if you will, or frequency. And there's a lot of those according to all the wacky quantum science and stuff. So possibly Bigfoot might be a being of that nature that we can see through the veil every now and then. But that's not what I called to talk about.
All right. Let's hear it.
Should I tell a story that involves your sweet co-host Brandon Miner? Or,
well, obviously. Let's hear it.
I think I know what he's talking about.
My first UFO that I ever saw. Brandon? Yeah. Okay. So, young Brandon Miner there, and I used to be in a band, and this is like right after Blair Witch Project came out, whenever that was.
Oh, man.
And we, the whole band went up to our guitarist's campground in Morris, Illinois. And there was a golf cart there at this campground, which we would take as fast as we could down a very steep hill. And then go across a bridge. We're probably like 40 miles an hour, not even kidding, on a golf cart.
Yeah, we were cruising.
And then take it down this little grass embankment thing. And we'd spin out at the bottom. It was awesome. We did it like 100 times. And there was just a bunch of woods behind that for miles because it's in the middle of nowhere. And that particular day, it kind of looked like there was a storm coming in, and it was nighttime. And we had been doing that all day. And then one of these times we come tearing down the hill, across the bridge, down the grass. We spin out. We're laughing. And then, you know how you can hear or see rain coming from far away sometimes, like
Yep.
especially if it's really heavy, you see like a wall of rain coming at you.
Oh yeah.
Well, we heard that coming from the woods. We heard like this rustling of the leaves really loud, and we go, oh, there's the rain. And we hear it just loud, getting closer and closer and closer until it's just this cacophony of just rustling leaves being agitated. And then it just cuts off like a faucet.
Oh, weird. That's
And then
crazy.
the entire forest was silent. And then we just went inside for the night because that was spooky.
Yeah. What do you think? What do you think it was?
Well, it could have been just downdrafts and microbursts, but
Nicely done.
honestly, I don't know, man. Like the place was called Indian Creek. It's in Morris, Illinois, which is like by Joliet, which is, there was definitely like Indian stuff that happened there. But I don't know, man. That was like, what do you think, Brandon? Do you remember that?
I honestly, I remember standing there with my cigarette, which might have
Oh,
been
yeah.
your cigarette, and I
It was
remember
like 20
hearing
something
it.
years ago, to be fair. So
Yeah, no, that was the night where we had that crazy huge like cloud formation that was just like an electrical storm.
yeah, the cloud to cloud lightning. Yeah.
Yeah, and this was just this pillar cloud in the middle of a field, and there's lightning bolts just hitting in the cloud, but nowhere else. It was just in that cloud formation. The rest of the sky was clear, and I remember that being really weird.
Whoa.
Like it would flash in one spot and then spider web across the entire like field of clouds.
Yeah, like as far as clouds go, Shane, like this would be one of your like cloaking clouds. If I had to say, like,
read my mind.
if they actually do exist,
Wait,
yeah.
I would say this was
Cloaking
one of your
clouds?
cloaking
Yeah.
clouds,
Yep.
man.
Yeah,
Like
cloaking
a
clouds.
cloud that cloaks a UFO, because that was my first UFO that I saw.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's why I'm tying it in there is because it's kind of suspicious. But yeah, this massive cloud, this crazy electrical storm, and then all of this wind in the trees, only to have it just stop, kind of.
Yep.
And we were kind of just like, to hell with this, we're out of here,
Did you write a song about it?
No, thank God. We
That song sucked.
we stayed away from that one. Terrible song.
That's hilarious. That's a crazy story, though. I don't know. The woods there's weird things happening in the woods.
Oh, definitely.
Did you ever see anything else?
Not that time, I don't think. But like, it's weird that you mentioned that the cloaking clouds, because like the first UFO I saw was thinly veiled by a cloud, and it was huge, and it had to be like half a mile wide, which is why I know it was a UFO and not one of ours. And it was insane, man. Like you could definitely see like a solid rim around the edge with lights coming out, shining through the clouds in wide beams. My friend and I were like standing up in the car screaming. And it appeared like 3 separate times in a period of about 1 minute, because it would like flash up for about 3, 4, 5 seconds and then go dark and then flash up again in a different spot. And it was on like a definite path. And it was, I mean, no one's going to tell me like that was anything else but an alien craft, because that was, I mean, it was like a movie.
And it
And
was cloaked the whole time?
yeah.
It was cloaked the whole time?
Yeah, but it was definitely a solid object that was like thinly veiled by clouds. You could see a hard rim of it behind the clouds with the lights. They were like yellow and blue and green and red,
What time of day was it?
and it was just like wide bars. This was probably about 1 o'clock in the morning, because we had done we had just done a comedy show, and we were driving out to Villa Park, Illinois, to go to a party, and we were on Kingery Highway, and it's like a pretty well populated area. I remember checking the newspapers and like the internet for the next couple days, but I didn't find anything. I wish I had written down the date, because I could go back and look, but it was phenomenal. It was crazy.
Yeah, that sounds interesting. I do think there's clouds that they use. I don't know who they is yet, either extraterrestrial or our own government, but I think they can manufacture things to try to hide stuff in the sky.
Oh, I mean, I know this. I saw it.
Yep. Confirmation. One form of fake cloud.
Yes, sir.
Sick. That's awesome. Thank you for calling in, man.
Thanks for having me, boys.
Of course.
Yeah, you got anything you want to shout out before we get you out of here?
I just want to say Bigfoot Flick. I saw him on Ash Wednesday, and he had ashes on his forehead. So,
Righteous. All right, brother.
Sick.
Appreciate you calling in, man.
Thank you.
thanks, buddy. Have a good one.
Yeah,
too.
we'll see you.
Incredible. Incredible. So we heard a new UFO story from Brandon and an old UFO story from Brandon today.
Yeah, that was unexpected.
Interesting. Interesting. And sort of similar, dude.
Yeah.
Lightning clouds.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Now that I'm thinking about that's part of the reason why I brought it up is because I was just thinking that same thing. I'm like, man, this light that I saw earlier definitely, and I almost want to get a hold of Dom and tell him to come up to the studio so we can get like his account of this,
Yeah.
because he was standing right there with me,
Yeah.
and he just looked at me and he's like, what the hell was that? And I'm like, dude, I have no idea. Well, we ran out, electrical cloud. Instantly, just massive electrical cloud out in the distance. So
They're watching you.
you got me thinking now, Shane.
Good. Good. So 2 fake cloud experiences connected to 2 UFO experiences.
Man.
I love it. Let's take another caller.
Yeah, keep it rolling.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll try to get to as many callers as we can. And again, if we don't get to you, I am sorry, and I hope you call back tomorrow. I want to hear your stories. We love hearing them.
Yeah, for our repeat offenders in here, we're gonna try to give everybody who's gotten into here a chance. So if we don't get back to you tonight, feel free to call back tomorrow. We'll get back online with you.
For sure.
Let's go to Julie. Julie, you're on Inverted World Live. What's up?
Hi.
Hello.
Do I tell you the story first and then back me through?
Yeah. How
Sure.
are you? Tell us a story, and we'll go from there.
Okay, great. It's actually something that happened to my son a couple of weeks ago,
Okay.
and it kind of, been freaking me out a little bit. I'm a big, fan of the paranormal, but my son, he's 16, he's an absolute skeptic, and we live in the Pocono Mountain, the end of a long dead end road up against 30,000 acres of game land. And he likes to go in the backyard at night. We'll have the lights on and he'll work on, like, he does wood burning or he does like welding, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And one night he came flying through the house and he ran into my husband's office. I overhear him talking, and it's like, my husband's like, oh, it's just a bear. And, and since then he won't stay out after it gets dark. He'll go outside in the yard as soon as it gets dark. There's the lit part of the yard, and then it's just darkness for 30,000 acres. And so after a couple of weeks, I was in the car with him. I'm like, hey, I noticed you haven't been going out, you haven't been staying out working on your projects after dark. What's going on? And he's like, well, Mom, I saw something. I'm like, oh, is this about the bear? And he got really quiet. And then you got to understand, he's an Eagle Scout. He's in Civil Air Patrol. He grew up in the woods hunting, fishing. Like, he knows his animal. He knows his wildlife animals. And I said, well, what do you think because he said, it is not a bear. And I well, what do you think it is? And he kind of went through, like he was in his own mind, like, well, it was too big to be a raccoon or a coyote. It was too thin. It was like crouching down. And I said, well, what happened? And he's like, well, I'm working on my project and I hear a rustling in the bushes past the dark line of darkness. So I look at it and I see these 2 eyes looking back at me. And he said, the weird thing is, most wild animals, if you maintain eye contact with them, they'll turn around and run away. Like, they don't like it. This thing kept staring back at me. And I thought that was really weird. So I start taking a couple steps forward. And then all of a sudden, whatever it was, it just bolted up to a standing position and turned around and ran into the woods. And I said, oh, well, maybe it was like a bobcat, because we do have those down here. They're rare, but that could be something I could see that would be in a crouching position and then get up and jump up. And he's like, it's not a bobcat and it's not a bear. And I said, well, how do you know? He's like, Mom, it took off running upright on 2 feet. And he's like, if it wasn't for living in the middle of the woods, I said, well, what did it look the most like? Like, are we talking about Bigfoot? And he's like, no, it didn't have any hair. He's like, Mom, the closest thing I would say it looked like is like a skinny, pale crackhead running through the woods, but it wasn't making any noise. So it just really freaked me out because I've heard of stories because I follow like, you guys and a bunch of other podcasts. And like it sounds to me like a pale walker, I think they call it.
Like a skinwalker, or
Like, well, I've heard, I mean, I'm not an expert, but I've heard skinwalkers actually transform it like from people to animals. But then I've heard of these like pale walkers that are like tall, skinny, pale creatures that are humanoid. It almost like that urban legend, that creepypasta they talk about, that tall, pale guy. I forget his name, but it's just my kid doesn't really dive into this stuff, so I'm like talking about it, and he doesn't know this stuff. Like he's the kid that when he's out with his friends with scouts and they're talking about, oh, I saw Bigfoot, he'll be the one to say, you saw a hunter wearing a ghillie suit, or they'll say, oh, I saw these 7 foot tall, glowing eyes in the woods staring at me, and he'll be the one to tell him it was an owl sitting on a tree branch. Like, he's the great debunker.
right?
But it's just.
Have you guys talked to anyone? Have you talked to anyone in the neighborhood and told this and shared the story?
No, because we don't really live in a neighborhood. Like we're pretty isolated.
Gotcha.
And I think he doesn't really want to talk to his friends at Scouts about it because he's prided himself on being such a skeptic and debunking all of their stuff.
Right.
But I mean, this is a kid who has done endless like search and rescue training weekends in the Pocono Mountains, Boy Scout camping trips, and not just like little Cub Scout trips, but like 2 week long hardcore in the woods. And it's just funny to see, like, he still does those things because he's when he's with a group, but it must really be something that he can't shake because he'll go out in the backyard and like we have a third of an acre and then we have our backyard lit up. And then there's like this sharp line of darkness where it just goes into like endless woods. And it's funny because he'll be out there working on like a welding project or a wood burning. And as soon as it gets dark, he packs it up and comes in and works in the garage or puts it away.
Right. I don't blame him.
So I'm not we've only lived in Pennsylvania. We just moved here about 2 years ago. So I'm not as, like we came out here for weekends and stuff, but now I'm trying to find out like, what are the local legends? Like some of the people in the town have said that Bigfoot lives out here, and I'm like, oh, well, Bigfoot lives everywhere. But
right, yeah,
I
it'd be
haven't heard
interesting.
anything about pale walkers or.
It'd be interesting to do research on on like in your area, just like in the wilderness alone. You could do it some online, but even I don't know if there's like somewhere a local library and looking through old, I got to do this. I go to libraries and look through microfilm to find certain words, keywords to give me more context on certain stories I'm hearing about. Sometimes it's like weird cryptid stuff, or sometimes it's like true crime stuff, because it's like information you can only find in a library or the local historian who's held on to stuff. And like I've talked to a lot of local historians, and they tend to have a lot of everything, and they might not believe in it, but they collect stories and weird, strange headlines, stuff like that. So it might be one thing. Both the Google and actual real world research.
Yeah, he didn't get a sense that it was like a haunted, like a ghost. It was just, I'm thinking some kind of cryptid, something.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like for sure.
Weird. But I'd never heard of like pale walkers or like you mentioned, the skinwalkers in the Northeast. I've always heard it being like a California or Southwestern.
Yeah. I mean, like I was saying earlier, I think there's something strange out in these woods, all different types of things. On the other side of that, I also think there are people who live in the woods who are strange. Like
Oh,
like hermits. Like that was part of a legend near where I grew up in the Hudson Valley in New York, and they said there were like feral family, like a feral family that just looked like
oh,
animals, right? That lived in the mountain that it was I forget, it was on the other side of this mountain called this old town called Doodle Town, and people, that was the legend. So I always had
yeah.
both those things in my mind. Like it could just be people who live in the woods that look freaky because they're people who live in the woods forever, or it's something unhuman.
Yeah, like I've done a deep dive on just podcasts about feral people in Appalachia down in like
Hmm.
Tennessee area. So
Hmm.
it's a little disconcerting to think that that could have reached this far north, but well,
Yeah.
maybe he's right. Maybe it was just some naked crackhead running through the woods.
Whatever it was, it sounds like an alarming thing to see for
Yeah,
sure. And
but
if you
and I just wanted to mention I've been a huge fan of your stuff for years, right? Way going back to like the Georgia Gold books
oh wow, thank you.
and the podcast before it got big. And the one thing like I we lived for 20 years on Long Island, and you are 100% right. Long Island is a very dark, weird, evil place.
I was born
And
there. Yeah, I know. It was. It's a weird place.
I, I don't want to be a time hog, so I'll call in again for the stories related to Long Island, but I'll just leave it at this. We actually did live in Amityville around the
Ooh.
corner. My son had play dates in the boathouse of the house, so that's creepy.
Yes.
And it's an even longer story. I'll call in one another time, but talk about 6 degrees of separation because they arrested the Gilgo Beach, serial killer.
Hmm.
That indirectly ended up leaving me in solitary confinement in prison for 24 hours. It was all just a huge bunch of computer errors, they said.
Oh
So
man.
that's,
Okay. Well, you have
but,
to
and
call
there's just,
back.
it's weird. It's a weird, and I'm not from there. I
Hmm.
never want to go back there. I spent 20 years there. That's long enough, but it is like a weird, dark, evil place.
Yeah, something's wrong with that place. Thank you for the kind words, and please do call back because we want to hear the rest of this.
Yeah. Okay.
Have a good
All
night.
right. Well, thanks so much.
Take care.
Bye.
Good night.
Long Island. It'll haunt me for the rest of my life.
More like Wrong Island.
Ooh, nice.
Zinga.
It's such a crazy place. Yeah, I did a lot of time out there. I was born there, but I did a lot of time out there investigating the Long Island serial killer. And there are a lot of serial killers in Long Island. More there than, I mean, it's like California's got a lot, and we don't know how many there are right now.
California is a massive state, though.
Right.
Rhode Island is not.
Like there is, like the person she was talking about is the suspect's name is Rex Heuermann, who was not famous, like a really successful architect who is now in prison for suspected of killing all these prostitutes in Long Island, where he dumped one of his bodies. And I walked this like trail where it was only like a short distance away from where another serial killer lived who's in jail right now, who was a carpenter. So like my whole theory was always like they kind of all knew each other, and that maybe the graveyard where they left all the bodies at Gilgo Beach, they shared. But remains to be seen.
It's like
Rex
a
Heuermann,
serial killing social club.
yes. That is what I believe. I don't think he did it alone. I don't think these people operate alone for that long. We've had guests on who've talked about their theories that there's a lot of these killers are connected to the government, and that's something to consider. And some of them are. I mean, some of them are literally in politics, like Ted Bundy. But I don't know. Long Island is a strange place. Let's take another caller.
Yeah, let's do it. And let me see. I think we got a few chats. Let's get these out of the way here.
Yeah, definitely.
Annie and Jay says, I've lived right between Fort Dix and McGuire Air Force Base in Jersey my whole life. We see UFOs all the time.
You should call in sometime. Let's hear about it. But yeah, I hear a lot of stories from over there.
Yeah, by all means, tell us about it. And we got a couple from David Flora. He says, Northrop has an underwater drone that they're working on for the Navy. I wonder if that has anything to do with the fighter pilot sightings. Tuesdays are for the monkeys. They are indeed. I've got it written down right here. Tuesdays are when they burn the monkeys. That's
right.
This is factual.
Too
He also
much
says to ask about the temple lot 495 where you got to wear special underwear and it looks like the castle in Wizard of Oz.
That's right. The Mormons, right?
I don't know anything about this. Is it
something
you're familiar with?
Only a little bit, but I think the Mormons do wear certain undergarments. It might be one of those things I'm just getting totally wrong, but I think that's right. Yeah, it's wild stuff.
All right. I think we're caught up here, so let's look back at. And we still got a bunch of people in here, so we're gonna keep pounding away, guys.
Yeah.
If we don't get to you again, sorry.
We'll take as many as we can.
We'll try and grab as many of you as we can, and if not, feel free to call back in tomorrow. We'll try to get you in.
Yep, we'll be back tomorrow at 10 o'clock. Do it again. And if there's a lot of you here right away, we'll just roll right with callers.
All right, so let's go to Kyle. Kyle, you're on Inverted World Live. What's up?
Hey, what's good? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good, man. I'm from the Northeast, just to give you guys a, geolocation. Deep Northeast, up past Massachusetts. I got two stories you guys can pick from. One of them has to do with what you guys were talking earlier about a skinwalker, and one of them has to do with an abduction.
Let's do abduction.
Yeah, I like abduction.
And you should call back with the other one.
Okay. So I was living with my buddy, and he lives right there's a famous triangle in the Northeast where all these UFO sightings are, and, the original story of the, what was the older couple that got abducted from their car?
Oh, yeah. I always forget their name. They were left
I
in the
always
car.
forget it, too.
I
It's
don't
all
know why.
good.
It's hard to always remember their name. Barney something?
Barney and Betty Hill. Yeah,
That's it. Yeah.
So I had moved in with him right after his dad had passed away of alcoholism, sadly, and I was helping him basically just fix up the house and get everything, to where it's livable again.
Mm-hmm.
And this is probably about a year and a half into living there, and he worked nights on the computer, so he was up all night, and I'm a night owl too, so I'm up all night. And we always see some strange stuff in the sky, some stuff that we pretty much are like, oh yeah, that's probably military, stuff like that. But this was like middle of the winter, like deep winter. And the other story also happened right around the same time. And I'm like laying in bed, getting ready to go to bed. I end up dozing off. I'm fully asleep at this point, and then I like wake up with like the worst cold sweats of my life. I'm thinking like, am I sick or what? And I look outside and there's like this odd glow around the house. I'm like, what the fuck? And then I like go to get up and I can't move. Sorry, I'm getting a little worked up.
It's all good.
I can't move, and I'm like stuck in my bed. I'm like, what the fuck is going on with this shit? And I grew up listening to all these stories about aliens and shit, and I always kind of like pass it off, especially the ones that are like, the Greys and all this shit. I was kind of like, why would they be bipedal? Why would they be human? They could be anything, right? Because they're in space. They can do whatever the fuck they want.
Right.
Sorry for my language. And I'm sitting there, and I can't move. I'm like, what is going on? And all of a sudden, I feel this like tingling go through my whole body, and I go to scream, like literally guttural scream, like I'm scared, like there's something medically wrong with me. And I'm looking out, and the light keeps getting brighter and brighter, and I'm like, there's no way my homie, who's right across the hall from me, like the house was like a ranch. It's it's pretty small. You can't, if anything's going on, people are going to be able to hear or see. We have big windows on the house, so it's pretty easy. And then I start to lift out of my I start to lift out of my bed, and like at this point I'm stunned. Like I can't move, I can't talk. And then I black out the second I see my because I'm looking down at my feet at this point, and I see like my blankets just start moving by themselves, like off of my body. And at this point, like I black out the second it hits my feet, and I wake up, and I'm in this like cold damp environment, and there are like 7 or 8 tall beings standing around me, and they look like they're in like a doctor's, like it's like a doctor setting, and I'm like, these things are communicating with each other. I'm picking up every third word, but there's no mouths on these things, and they're not talking. It's like all like how people say telepathic. Like
Yep.
I'm like picking up every third word because of course, I don't understand it. They're not speaking English, but I can kind of from their intonation and what they're doing, like what is going on, dude? And at this point, I'm trying to scream. Like at this point, I'm like screaming. I'm freaking out. I'm losing it, and like the main, what I would call like the head doctor, like just comes up and like looks at me with these like loving, caring eyes, which was like the most odd thing that I've ever seen. He looked at me like I was a hurt animal, and then like he like did something, and then I blacked out again, and then I woke up back in my bed, and this time I actually like the second I woke up, I like, oh, like screamed, and my buddy ran into the room. He's like, "Yo, are you good? Are you good?" And I'm like, "Dude, something just happened to me." I and this dude I grew up with, so I shared everything with him and like told him what happened, and he like, to me, I don't tell stories like this. I don't do anything. So he's like obviously freaking out too. His girlfriend's freaking out. And she's like, "Do we need to call someone? Do we need to do something? Do we need to bring you to the hospital?" I'm like, "No, like I'm good now, like cuz my body was fine." Um, I did a whole check on myself in the mirror, like I was having a serious moment.
Mm.
Like tears in my eyes, freaking out. And he's like, "Okay, like you're good, you're here, you're safe. I got a gun if anything happens, blah blah blah." And so I explained to him like I blacked out, but now that I'm looking back, like a memory, like I can see myself leaving the window, going through a solid glass window, like it was liquid. And like, so I come back down to earth. I'm like chilling out. He's like, "Did you eat anything before dinner? Did you have, milk?" Well, because things can mess up with your stomach.
Yep.
And so I'm like, "No, like I went through my whole day, walked through them." And so like, he's like, "Well, what happened?" I'm like, I explained it to him, and he's like, "Damn, dude, that's like something out of like a cartoon, like something stupid that you would see on a movie." I'm like, "Yeah, dude, this freaked me out." And he's like, "Well, like, were you scared?" And I was like, "Of course, I was trying to scream, but I couldn't scream when the thing first happened. I wasn't able to scream until I was back in my body, in my bed. The sheets and covers were back on me, like I was like completely undisturbed. You know what I mean?"
Mm.
But I was still straight as a plank when I woke up. Because when I first, before it happened, like I was in my bed completely like flat as a plane, like because I was frozen in fear. And when I came back to and woke up in my bed again, I was in the same position, like I had like not been disturbed at all. And so he was like, "Okay, well, he comforted me, made me feel really good." And then as time went on, I noticed that like I had like, I'm pretty religious, so I believe in like sin and stuff. And I had these things that I was struggling with.
Mm-hmm.
And like this one thing that just like was really eating away at my heart and eating away at my soul, like all of that want, all of that need, all of that like, that thing that drives you to sin was like gone
Hmm.
of that particular sin. And like, so I'm like telling, my buddy about this, and he's like, this is like months after it happened. He's like, "Really? Like you don't struggle with that anymore?" I'm like, "No, dude, I haven't done it in months. I've no struggles with it." He's like, "Holy shit, dude, I think they just did surgery on you." And I was like, "Damn, dude, like, yeah, it freaked me out." But at the same time, now I look at like those, I look at some of those things as like maybe they're game wardens. Like they're here to like watch us and observe us for whoever. And like if a cow gets sick or, like a person's dealing with something, they can come down and do surgery. I don't know, man. But I
Man,
just know I haven't struggled with that thing ever since. And I'm like, all right, W aliens. Like, all right.
I know. I'm sure there's people listening who are like, "This sounds completely crazy," and it does. But I've interviewed a lot of people who have like exactly the same story. Some people are like, "Well, maybe it was a MyLab, like a military abduction." But
Yeah, I
but
mean, it
like,
could be anything, but these things were like clearly like when I was on I'll call it the operating table, like
mhm,
these things were like 7, 8 foot tall, and they didn't have mouths,
yep,
and like I said, it's like the typical alien you would think of in pop culture, right? Like that's stupid. People make up
The
stories
light
and shit.
bulb head with the
But like
big
I'm telling
eyes.
you from firsthand experience, this thing like changed my life. And like I'm glad it did because I don't struggle with that thing anymore. But I'm also like, these things don't have any concept of consent. You know what I mean?
Right. I mean, yeah. I mean, I think looking at them like a game warden is a pretty good way of seeing it, if that's what it is. The tingling that you started to feel before it happened, would you say that's like when a limb falls asleep or something different?
Yeah, kind of close to that. Like it's very, very close to like if you ever had like a really bad Charlie horse. Yeah, like
Hmm.
but it was all over my body, like the
And
whole of my body.
did
There
it
was not an
start?
inch of my body where I was not feeling this tingle.
I'm sorry if I missed this part. Did it start one place and then move around, or was it the whole body at once?
It was like a grow like you know how when you start to have your leg fall asleep, you can feel it build up. It
Hmm.
was like that.
Okay. And you said you checked yourself for markings. I guess you found nothing.
Yeah, nothing, man. Like nothing physically was done to my body, but something was clearly done to like my not my soul, but like the internal things that you have in your brain, right?
Right.
Like, yeah.
Um, and you said you could hear them. They're communicating telepathically. Did you hear other sounds?
Not, you know, it was kind of like being underwater. Like there was no, it was like listening to people. If you've ever been underwater as a kid and like heard people talking outside of the pool,
Hmm.
like it was kind of like that.
Hmm. Interesting.
Yeah.
And the one main doctor was the only one who had that like comforting look in his eyes.
Yeah, like it was like they weren't paying attention to me at first. You know, they were like looking at notes or whatever they were doing, like a doctor would do. And then like they noticed I was like freaking out, like I had awoken and I was freaking out.
Hmm.
And like the main one like walked up to me and like looked at me in the eyes and like all I could feel like telepathically was him saying like it's okay, you're gonna be okay, we're not gonna hurt you, that type of thing, like you'd do with a dog if it broke its leg or something.
Right. Right. That's wild. And nothing else? No other, I wouldn't say losing that one, I guess, need to sin or the feeling of sin having been removed. It's not really a symptom. I guess that's a bit of a cure. But has there been other things you've observed that are different about you since then?
Yeah, I'm just way more content with my life and like I don't like feel because I struggled with depression growing up the whole time
Mm.
and like I'm clinically diagnosed and all that. And ever since then, like I've just been really content no matter where I'm in life, no matter how hard things get. I know that God's watching over me and I know that whatever those things were, they clearly weren't demonic. Like that I've heard of people saying aliens can be demonic or these things in the sky could be demonic.
Mm.
Whatever the ones I encountered were, like it was like I said, they were like a game warden that found a bear that was stuck in a bear trap and like they were just there to help me.
That's wild. That is a
Yeah.
wild story.
Yeah, you're telling me. And I always thought these were like fun stories growing up. Like they were just like, you know, cool pop culture things. And now I look back at it, I'm like, maybe these people, these sightings of these things are not as crazy as people make them out to be.
Yeah.
And like my mother is completely religious and I like had the hardest time like basically coming out and telling her about this story because I'm like, oh, she's gonna think I got possessed or you know something like that. And like I finally came out about this story like maybe a month or two ago to her, and she was like, I'm just glad that you're not struggling with that sin anymore. And she says, I'm gonna pray for you that that doesn't happen again and all that stuff. And you know, she's my mom. She was comforting and
Mm-hmm.
but it's been very hard because I don't come out and tell stories like this to people in my own personal life. You know,
Right.
the only reason I told my homie was because he heard me when I woke up screaming,
Have
and
Have you
everyone
noticed?
else I've just never. It's been tight lid on it. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, I understand, and that's something a lot of people share with me as well, who've told me very similar stories. But I'm curious, have you noticed? Has anyone come to you to share with you UFO abduction stories without you even bringing it up?
No, not
Okay,
yet. But like I said, it's only been probably 2 years since the incident.
okay,
So
that seems to be something that happens to other people.
Like an egregore effect,
Like, explain that.
like a hive mind.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, maybe not so much like that, but more like from people I've talked to, it's like something about them gives off some energy, they say, or that they feel that way, that makes other people feel open to telling them that they've had an experience.
Like one Spider-Man
Yeah,
identifying another
I
one.
don't think
Oh, yeah,
any
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
no one's come to me with an abduction story, but people have been more open about like their feelings about what these things in our skies could be, and like people have been more open to me as a person in general. Yes, I definitely agree.
Interesting. Interesting. Well, thank you for calling in and sharing that story, and call back sometime so we can hear the Skinwalker
Absolutely,
story.
I'd love to share the Skinwalker
Okay.
story. I call it a Wendigo because I kind of
Sick.
try to respect the Native American, and their tradition. So, but
Well,
I
yeah.
definitely had an encounter with one of those, me and my buddy, and he can actually back me up for it because he was there.
Okay. Awesome. Call back. I'm hearing from people that definitely want to hear the story. I want to hear the story. So we'll look forward to you calling back.
Absolutely, man.
Thanks,
Appreciate
man.
it. Thank you.
You
Thanks,
too.
Kyle.
Have a good night.
Yeah, you as well.
You think we have time for one more? How many people are there?
Still quite a few. I mean, yeah, we can try to get to one more.
Let's try one more. We'll go a little over, and then we'll call it a night from there. And then for those we didn't get to, I apologize again, and I hope you call back tomorrow. And maybe we'll just start taking callers sooner.
Come on, Dad.
Yeah.
Alien lobotomies.
Dude, literally, I've had that conversation with a ton of people.
Warrantless mind tapping.
Yep. Down to the telepathy, to the window, to the wall. No, sorry, I'm not going to sing a song. I can't help it. The glow, the way they looked, the feeling of comfort. I mean, people who are skeptical of it could be like, well, they've heard that story from someone else and they just are repeating it. But there are very weird details these people keep having. Yeah, I don't know. There's one guy I talked to who thinks they put something in his brain, so maybe those weren't as nice. But let's try one more caller, and hopefully everyone else will call back tomorrow.
All right, so let's get into it. We're going to bring in Spencer. Spencer, do you have a mic, sir?
Sure do. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yes.
we can.
Yes,
What's
sir.
going on, man?
Hey, so I've never had the privilege of seeing a UFO, but my father has.
Okay.
And this story is like, it blew my mind when I heard it. I was about 10 or 11. So this is early aughts. It was like 2003, 2004. My dad and a lot of his friends and some family would go up to the Lower French every year for a fishing trip. So they go up there once a year, like August, September, do some fishing for 3 days. So they're very religious. At the time, they were religious people. They're in a boat nighttime fishing, and this orb comes up over the trees, and it's just like spinning around, moving in really weird shapes, real like not predictable. Then there's like he's described 3 or 4 more that just came in. Like they're just coming out of nowhere, and they all merged into one and flew away really quick. And so my dad is with this other guy who was like, they were Jehovah's Witnesses. So he was an elder in the hall. So they're very like, they don't get into any conspiracies, non-political, they don't
Right.
believe in aliens, that kind of thing.
Yep.
So my dad and this guy are like, did we really just see that? What was that? What the hell was that? So they go back to the lodge and they start talking to people like, what, did you guys see this? They're all like sharing stories, swapping it, and a couple other people at the lodge saw it. So there's no cell service there, right? You can't call in and off. It's middle of nowhere. It's just on an island. So there's one payphone. The next morning, my dad calls my mom and he's like, we saw this insane thing. This was crazy, all this crazy shit. So we're in Cleveland. This guy it was WTAM 1100. The guy, Mike Trivisano, was the host. My mom listens to him all the time. Every morning she would listen to him, rest in peace. But he had a guy call into his radio show and was like, last night, all these, he lived by a Air Force base. He's like, all these planes were just taking off in the middle of the night. There was tons of planes going off, and he's talking to Mike Trivisano about this. And my mom was like, you're kidding me. I just heard on the radio, they were talking about all these planes that lifted off from the Air Force bases and all this, there was all this activity. And like, I wouldn't believe it myself. I'm a skeptical person, but my dad and that guy is still he's still Jehovah's Witness, very dedicated. But he, to this day, is like, I don't know what that was. That was something I've never seen before. Like they have the same story. Other people on the island had the same story. It blew my mind. Blew my mind.
Wow. Did the other people on the island have the same story from the same night, or something they've seen on different nights?
Same exact night. No, there was like, so I mean, I don't want to give anything away, but it's on the lower French River. You have to like, you drive down a dirt road, you get on a pontoon boat, and they take you to this lodge, and
Mm-hmm.
it's great fishing up there. So it's like really remote. But the island, there's like, I don't know, 15 cabins on the island, so maybe it holds like 50 people max. But I've only been up a few times, but there's never been more than like 20 people on the island.
That's
But
crazy.
there was other people there that were like, we saw the same thing that happened. That's insane. They were all talking about it, and then the next morning is like my dad called my mom, and they were talking about what happened on the radio. It was like, I don't know.
Did he
It's pretty bizarre.
did he think it was alien stuff, or did he think something else?
No, he's my dad for sure now. He's all on board. He's like a believer in aliens now. Like that,
Wow.
he's no longer a
Because
witness, none of that stuff.
Because of
He's
wow, did that event change him? Because I noticed you said at the time they were religious.
yeah, I mean, I grew up we were very strict religious.
Mhm.
My dad didn't leave till much later after that. It was, I don't know, 10, 12 years after that. But I mean,
Okay.
him and we talk about this shit all the time now. He's so into it. He's like, he's he knows. He's a believer. You know, he's Fox Mulder, dude. This guy's like, he knows his stuff. It's crazy.
Did he
It's
say there were sounds?
really
Were there
really
sounds
impressive.
associated with the orbs? Like, did he hear anything?
No, he never said he heard anything. It was
Hmm.
just like one orb, and then more orbs were coming into it. Like they were just coming out of nowhere, and they all formed into one, and then flew away. And like they
Interesting.
both described the same thing. And the other people on the island, they just said they saw a couple orbs. They didn't like it wasn't like the exact same story, but they all saw the orbs. So it was like, you know, the French River, it's like you're on the river, and there's some really wide basins. Like it's some of it's like indistinguishable from a lake in some areas. You know, it's
Hmm.
real big. So if you're like in the cut, you really wouldn't be able to see over the trees to see it. But they were out in like a bay, trolling night fishing, so they got to like see a grand view of the sky, and they saw the whole thing. It like blew them away. They both were like had they were blown away. They
Yeah.
had no idea what they just saw.
The merging part is definitely interesting. I mean, the orbs alone are
Yeah.
interesting, but I feel like I've heard a story about similar things. I think it was in Canada about orbs that might have merged. I got to look into that. But I've heard
Yeah.
stuff like that before. Like yeah, I think it's a thing. People have certainly seen stuff like that.
I mean, you see like sometimes you would think it's like a drone if you're really far away and it's like searchlights and
Right.
weird stuff, but he was describing the way it moves. He's never seen anything move like that. And then they all just like he didn't say it like the orb didn't get bigger or smaller. They all just like merged into one and flew away. So maybe it was like, you know, it could have been some experimental drone thing that they all formed up and flew away, whatever. But he was like, I've never seen anything move like that.
Hmm.
They all came out of nowhere and just like formed up and flew away.
Yeah, I
Like
mean,
it was,
it could be something that's
and then
not
the
human.
then the next morning the radio, the guys was talking about the air bases were going nuts. All these planes are flying and taking off, and I don't know, it's pretty
Right.
bizarre.
Right. It's almost like were they taking off because they were trying to fight something?
Rapid response team.
Right.
That's Yeah, that's what I'm guessing. I mean, if you're like you see a bogey on the radar, I don't know if they come up on radar or not, but it's like you see something, you're going to be like, okay, this is in our airspace. I'm sure we protect Canada too, so it's like, you know, they're gonna figure out what this is.
I mean,
I mean, whether they knew it or not, whether
yep.
it's theirs or a training mission, who knows?
It
But
could
it's
be
coincidental,
it could
you
have been
know?
something foreign. It could have been something alien, extraterrestrial, whatever, and that's a
Yeah.
response. Or maybe it's like how we started the show with Lockheed doing some things that others can't explain, and maybe the planes or the jets flying from the Air Force Base is a cover story to try to quell people's
Easy.
suspicions.
Training exercise.
Yeah, I mean,
For sure.
but that's a crazy story, man. I really appreciate you calling in and sharing that.
Yeah, absolutely. Love you guys.
Thanks, man. Have a good night.
Take it easy.
Yeah, you
Great
too.
way to end the night. I am very sorry for everyone we didn't get to. I hope you call back tomorrow. We'll be here at 10 o'clock, and we'll start sooner. and try to get more in, because the story I don't want to hear me talk. I'd rather hear you guys tell these stories. I love the stories. So same deal. We'll be back tomorrow, Tuesday. What happens on Tuesdays?
They burn the monkeys.
And if you don't know what that means, you can go back and listen to episode 51. And that was last Monday's episode, right? It's been 1 week.
And it has become an iconic saying here in the coffin, so I don't think it's going away anytime soon. I think we're keeping this one for good.
Shout out to that caller. So I hope you guys call back tomorrow. We'll be here at 10 o'clock and till 12 at midnight. I am Shane Cashman. You can find me online at all those places at Shane Cashman. And what about you, sir?
I am Brando Inverted on Insta and X. Don't forget to stay weird. We'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you guys for tuning in. This is a really fun episode. We'll see you tomorrow.